Hello everyone, this is Miss Nilli. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about an issue that I always face in my work all the time is time management. However, I would like to talk to you about how we should stop saying time management to students. Now, a lot of people would think about well, it's time management, right? We should teach our students about management skills. And the answer is yes. However, I have a lot of students who are teenagers, right? Because I teach high school. When we were teaching teenagers, they interpret the way of time management is they interpret the word time management in a very different way comparing to us, comparing to adults. So when they are thinking about time management, they are thinking about how they can fit in everything that they consider into a very finite time frame. And when we say a finite time frame is that your day always have 24 hours. And you will never have more than 24 hours. Your week will always have 7 days, and you would never have more than 7 days. And your year has 365 days, and well, maybe 366, but you will never have more than that. So your time is finite. However, your task is always like in an infinity. So when you tell teenagers that they have to manage their time, their first interpretation is, how can I put everything in this time, like finite time frame? So when we are talking about students, they are actually having a lot of tasks that they have to manage. In general, we always thought about, well, they have to manage their academics, they have to manage their clubs, sports, interest classes, and also they have to do their research or their planning in terms of their pathways. Sometimes they have to write their personal statement or they have to research on what university programs that they would like to apply to. So that is a lot of things that they have to manage already, and it takes a lot of time. However, these are the things that we see as, well, those are the responsibility of a students. However, what happened is that there are a lot of things that we don't see that they also have to manage in their time. For example, they have to think about their time that they spend with their friends, their time that they spend with their family, and also the time that they need to sleep. Actually, in my work and also a lot of different high school that I work at, or the high schools that I know, many teenagers are very lack of sleep in this generation. So they are definitely not managing their time correctly because they are trying to fit in the minimum amount of sleep in their 24 times 7 time frame. Now, they also have to fit in anything that will help with their mental health, and also they need entertainment as well. A lot of adults, including parents or sometimes myself, would think that, well, clubs would be their entertainment or sports or interest classes. However, entertainment doesn't mean that they have to do anything meaningful. They can be watching anime, they can be writing calligraphy, or they can be just lying down and meditate. That is also entertainment for them. So when we're thinking about entertainment, it is not necessarily a sport or an interest class or anything like that. So when we tell teenagers that, well, you need to work on your time management skills, or hey, you need to actually put you need to learn. At that time, what they are thinking is that, how can I put all of these into that finite time frame? And that that's not possible. You're basically telling them to do an mission impossible job. Because how can we actually put all of that in there? If you have let's say multiple classes, multiple sports or multiple clubs, there's no way that they will be able to do that, and they are going to sacrifice things, which is their health. Now, that would be the problem, is that if they start to sacrifice their health, then they are going to lead to burnout. And burnout is a topic that a lot of people don't pay too much attention to because they thought that, well, you know what? Burnout is burnout, just get some rest and everything is going to be fine. However, burnout is actually a huge problem, not only in teenagers, but also in adults and also in a lot of different age groups. However, in in teenage, we as adults, as parents, as teachers, we need to teach them how to time manage well so that they can avoid that burnout. Now, what are some consequences of burnout that could happen if a student or anyone is, well, burning out? Well, burnout does lead to a lot of different problems that are like so much bigger than we thought, and that could be that could be chronic as well. So it can lead to depression, it can lead to anxiety, and sometimes it would make you sick more often because it will actually, like when you are burnout, because your stress hormone is so high, and you are actually going to lower down your immune system and lead you to more sickness. And at the same time, when you're burnout, people start to tend to have insomnia. And when you don't sleep, your immune system go down as well. And then you start to have more illness. And that is just a vicious cycle. And at the same time, when the stress hormone is going up, because a lot of the stress hormones are also controlling the the anti-inflammation of our body. So therefore, what happens is that if we have a very high stress hormone ratio or like amount, then we are going to lead to chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation can also lead to a lot of chronic disorders or chronic disease, or there's also linked to cancer as well. Now, not only things that we don't see, for example, inflammation or like anxiety or depression, there are also times that like students or anybody who is experiencing burnout will start to experience physical pain. So there are a lot of problems that are actually like bigger than, well, people are just getting tired. Burnout can lead to a lot of serious effects and consequences to our body and ultimately lead to our health problems. So what should I do or what should you do then? Well, I don't know whether you are a parent or whether you're a student. However, I'm going to tell you some tips on how to time manage well or how to support a student in time manage well. In managing their time. So first of all, instead of talking about time management to a student, I always talk about priority to a student. Every time that when a student end up in my office, I always talk to them about what's your priority. Because what happened is that when we talk about time management, same thing. They will take it as how can I put everything and how can I create more time? How can I work harder? How can I make more time to study for this? So therefore, it's not about time. It's actually really about like what is actually important to you. So therefore, we're looking at priority. Now, let's take a look at an example. All the examples that I have is like students that I know. Sometimes I taught them, sometimes I didn't teach them, but some of the students are already in university or like people that I have taught like long time ago. So I have a student one over here who is extremely passionate in math, and this person have English and math that is 90% or above, and the student want to become an actuary. That student actually went to university for studying actuarial science afterwards, and one time they came and talked to me and say that like they want to take biology in summer school. So I was really shocked about that. I was like, why did you need to take biology? Why do you need to take biology in summer school? Because, you know, from what I know about you, you hate biology, you don't want to do biology, and you're not going to a university pathway that needs biology. Why are you doing that? Well, the student said to me saying that, well, my mom just told me that just in case that I change my mind, I can always kind of open up another pathway. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying that the mom is wrong about like, well, you know what, just in case that you're changing your mind. However, I asked the student, I was like, what is the probability of you changing your mind at this moment? And then they said, well, probably less than like 1% or less than like 0.000%. I'm doing well in math, I love math, and I want to become an actuary, so I probably would not think about biology at all. So I was like, well, here's the thing. If you are not thinking about biology, why are you putting your time on that? Why can't you just use your time to go volunteer or spend time with your family or do whatever that you think that is important to you, or like go to a camp that is related to math, or like go to a summer program that is related to math? Why do you need to take summer school for biology? Now, here's the thing. The parents will be like, well, what if they actually change their mind? How can you dictate somebody's future and closing the door for that student. Now, here's the thing though. If one summer school class of biology is going to open the door of that student to change their mind, it doesn't matter if you do it now or do it at that time, because it's just one summer school course. So why use that time right now that when the students can actually use that time more efficiently for something else? So therefore, it's all about like what's important for that student. It's not about like whether biology is useful or not. Now, let's take a look at another example. This student has an 80 plus average and is in 4 clubs and 2 sports, and took the bus is a former student. Took the bus to go to school, and the bus rides about like 45 minutes or an hour. And the student came to me and said they would like to get a part-time job. And I was like, well, why do you want to get a part-time job? And then the student said, well, like I want some pocket money. And also a lot of students are getting a part-time job, so I want to get a part-time job too. Now, here's the thing. This student has already like quite a bit of clubs and extracurricular activities that they are doing, and the student is spending a lot of time on bus transportation. So if the student is going to get a part-time job, they would have very limited time to actually do anything else. So I asked the student, I was like, are you sure that you're going to be able to balance all of these? And after thinking about that student thought that, well, you know what? I may not be able to balance all of them. So in order for this student to actually get the job, they would have to either, one, sacrifice either a club or a sport, or just not getting a part-time job in general. So when we look at what's important to the student, they decide that, well, clubs and sports are important to them. So therefore, they would like to not get a part-time job. So it's all about priority. Now, the next example, this student would like to go to engineering, and then that student was in an engineering pathway. Their marks are all like 90% or above in terms for compulsory courses, and they are a star athlete in the school, and they took the bus to go to school. But one thing that they didn't do really well is business. And that was 75%. So now mom got really mad, or parents got really mad, and the parents were like, well, you need to quit. You shouldn't be in any sports team anymore because you're not doing well in business. Now, I would start to have a question when that student came to me and said, well, you know what, I have to quit the sports team. And I said, well, why did you need to quit the sports team? And they said, well, because I did not do well in my business. And I said, well, do you need business for your university application? And the person was like, no, I don't really need business for my university application. So I was like, then why did you choose business as your elective? And then they said, well, I just want to give it a try and see if I like it or not. If I like it, that's great. If I don't like it, that's fine. So therefore, in this case, if we are looking at the student, right, like that business class is not important for that student. And we are basically penalizing the student when the students are thinking about trying something new. But when their trial is not going well, we penalize them for things that they like. So how is that even like logical, and how does that even make sense, right? I understand that like we should be doing everything well, but at the same time, we need to think about what's important and what's not important relatively to the student. Now, in this case, we need to think about like when we're working with a student, instead of talking about like you need to do this, you need to do that, or you need to drop this, you need to drop that. We need to work with the student and create a priority list. And every time that when there is a dispute or there is an argument between like the parent and the student in front of me, I always tell the parents and the student, I was like, why don't you just go home and write a priority list, and the parents can actually look at it and see what the students are actually thinking. Now, the priority list is important because what happened is sometimes when parents are thinking about what's important to them, for example, like they don't think that sports are important or like they think that biology is important, parents' priority is not the student's priority. Because time has changed, the generation has changed. For example, right now, like the world is moving towards a more technological type of like era. But back then, even when I was in teenage or like when parents were in teenage, computer was never that developed, right? So therefore, priorities are always changing. We can't really apply what we know into what the teenagers are thinking. So therefore, we never push the priority, like our priority, to our students' priority, because if they are doing something that they're not happy with, it would just lead to more burnout. Now, when we're looking at example 3, that student, I actually had a typo in this, but like I actually asked the student about, well, why don't you create a priority list? And this is what they created. So they created saying that like family and food is important, which is fine. And then after that, they put math, physics, chemistry, and English, which is all the compulsory courses that they need in order for them to go to university for engineering. And then after that, the student put mental health and friends and dogs, right? And I put history there, but that's the typo. But like that student put like business like extremely low. And no wonder, because like that person is just like the students are just trying out about business, right? It's not like something that is important to him or her. So in this case, what happened is that no wonder they are getting 75% because it's not in a high priority. But things that is important to them, they are doing well. They're getting 90 plus average for math, physics, chemistry, English. They're doing well in mental health. They're doing sports. They're taking care of their friends, taking care of their dogs, and spending time with family. So if that is actually how a student show their maturity in their time management, because they think about what is important to them and they do it well. Things that are less important to them doesn't mean that they're just going to trash it, but at the same time, they put that in a less priority. And that's okay. We need to think about that. That's okay. Now, some parents, whoever is watching, or like some adults, they will be like, well, I know that too. However, we need to make sure that we need to deliver that message to teenager as well. Or like, I kept saying teenagers because my students are teenagers. However, we need to deliver that message to whoever that we are talking to as well. So how much do we actually follow? How much do we actually respect their priority? So that is the most important part. Now, what if their priority list is strange? Well, first of all, are you sure that it is strange? Because it may be strange to you, but it may not be strange to them. As a student, it's okay that whatever that you put in your priority, it may not be strange, but like sometimes it just doesn't match with people's expectation, and that's okay. Now, if you're working with somebody who is creating a priority list, the first thing that you should be asking, instead of criticizing it as strange, the first thing that you should be asking is the reason why that they are putting that as their priority. Because it's important to them, right? So there must be some reason why it's important. For example, like the student put compulsory courses first for engineering because the person is applying to engineering, and that leads to connections, because every time that when there is a reason, it is connected to something that they're probably working on. So for example, it could be like they're working on their health, they're working on university application, or they're working on thinking about what's in their future. So there's always something that has a connection. And lastly, we should not be criticizing that it's strange, but at the same time we should think about like, how can I support you in completing this, right? So we can talk about, okay, so once you actually manage your high priority items, have you thought about doing your lower priority items? And how can I support you for completing your high priority items and then afterwards your lower priority items? And support is very important, because nobody, including teenagers, including adults, or even myself, would like to hear criticism about what is important to me. So therefore, what is important to me or what is important to them. Everybody nobody should be criticizing each other in terms of what is important to them, because they must have their reason. It's their life, right? So therefore, we need to think about what's the support that we should be providing, not criticizing. Now, ultimately, we want to prevent burnout, and that's the most important part, because burnout is scary, burnout has a lot of consequences, and it leads to a lot of health issues. Now, going back to my original topic, I said stop saying time management to students. Technically, that's not very true. We should be saying time management to students, but I think that what I meant by that is we need to help students in developing the skills in terms of time management, because when they hear the word time management, they think about how can they fit everything, because that's what manage is, right? How can they fit everything into that finite time frame? However, it's not about fitting in that time frame. It's all about how can you look at what's important to you and what's not important to you, and focus on things that are more important to you first, and then do whatever that is not important to you afterwards. Now, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much. If you like my video, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I also have a membership program for people who would like to kind of like support me a little bit more, or you can go to buy me a coffee to support me even more for that. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. It is at miss.nilli.classroom. I really appreciate you watching until the end, and thank you very much.